All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown, all three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing This Tender Land by William Kent Krueger. Now, William Kent Krueger is most known for his Cork O'Connell mystery series that is set in Minnesota, but he does have 3 standalone novels. I think the Cork O'Connell series has maybe 16 to 17 books, but he does have 3 standalone novels, this being one of them, This Tender Land. I've got all of the William Kent Krueger books over here. Let's pan through the library. That's my William Kent Krueger collection right there. Anyway, I've read and reviewed about a half a dozen or more of the books. If you want to watch any of those other reviews, just type in my last name and William Kent Krueger's last name. Those reviews will come up on your television screen somehow. Anyway, let's talk about the cover first. You know I love graphic design and cover illustration. This is a pretty cool cover. I mean, it's about a river and a river voyage. In fact, I would compare this novel to, gosh, it's kind of like Mark Twain and Huckleberry Finn floating down the river, mixed with a little bit of John Irving's Cider House Rules, which is about an orphanage. But anyway, it's the 2 books I would compare it to mostly. But the cover's dope. It works. So what is the book about? I actually have a paperback copy too. Anyway, so I'm just going to read one paragraph here. The tale I'm going to tell is of a summer long ago of killing and kidnapping and children pursued by demons of 1,000 names. There will be courage in this story and cowardice. There will be love and betrayal. And of course, there will be hope. And in the end, isn't that what every good story is about? Hope. Yeah, so that's that's right out of the book. That's right out of the prologue of the book. So in the summer of 1932 is when this takes place in Minnesota. Odie O'Banion is an orphan. He's 12 years old. And he's stuck in the Lincoln Indian Training School for boys. It's a mostly, from what I gathered from the book, it's a mostly Native American school, mostly for Native Americans. From what I could gather, Odie and his brother Albert, who is 16, seemed to be the only white folk, or the only white kids in this school. Now, they labor on a farm, and it's very hard. And it's made extra hard because Odie O'Bannon he runs his mouth a lot. He's not very obedient. So they kind of punish them with a lot of extra work. So that's kind of where the book starts out. They're kind of in dire straits. Their parents are dead. They're orphans. They're put in this school, which is not a good school. And we'll get into that. It's a school specifically for the Native Americans, run by white people. And so you can imagine that it's just bad all around for everybody. So Odie and his brother are there, 12 and 16. And then there's kind of a crime that happens, kind of a terrible crime that Odie is involved in that happens at the school, and then they have to flee. Him and his brother have to flee the school. And this is where we get into sort of the Huckleberry Finn comparison. Like the orphanage comparison was the Cider House Rules thing. Now once they flee because of this crime, it becomes more of a Huck Finn type of a thing, because they go off on a canoe into the river. They are forced to flee, really. And one of the other characters that goes with them is Moses Washington, who is a Native American and their best friend, but he's mute. This guy is mute, and he speaks through sign language, which is kind of cool. It adds to some cool, flavorful scenes anyway when they run into people along the river. And then another person that goes with them is a little girl named Emmy, who is only 6 years old, and she is really the heart and soul of the story. She's been recently orphaned, and she wants to flee this part of the country with these three boys. And so they steal away in a canoe along the Gilead River, which leads to the Minnesota River, which leads to the Mississippi. Over the course of one summer, these four orphans journey into the unknown and cross paths with others who are adrift, from struggling farmers and traveling faith healers to displaced families and lost souls of all kinds. With the feel of a modern classic, this Tender Land is an enthralling, big-hearted epic that shows how magnificent American landscape connects us all, haunts our dreams, and makes us whole. It's a pretty good description of the story that unfolds right there on the back. Now, this is there's a love-hate relationship between the two brothers, Ole and Odie and Albert. They don't get along at all. They argue all the time, but there's a deep, abiding love and loyalty between the two in some spots of the story. And then also, like I said, the 6-year-old girl that goes along with them, she's really just kind of like, she's just the soul of the book that ties them all together. I mean, it's about and then also beyond that, the nobility and royalty of Moses Washington, who they call Mose, the sign language guy. He's kind of a metaphor in this story for the historical brutality that befell the Native Americans with these schools that were invented in both Canada and the United States, where they would put these Native Americans in these schools and they would just mistreat them, and then their voices were silenced. And we kind of get, their voice kind of gets to come to life with the character of Mose. The people and their relationships with God, these children, they really do question their faith and what they've been told them as they go on this journey down the Mississippi River. And what relationship do we have with God in times of strife, in times of heartache? Some of these characters, because they fall in with some faith healers, with some religious fanatics. And some of them start to kind of believe the fanaticism. Others of them are just like, this is kooky talk kind of thing. You know, people have different definitions of what home is. Like, was home the orphanage? Was home on the canoe? Was home with these faith healers? Where is really home, and where does your heart lie? And what does it mean for each individual person on this planet? And it's a story where the arcs of these four characters go from one place at the beginning to vastly different and unexpected places at the end. And it's just an interesting journey. It's like I said, it starts out in an orphanage, kind of like the Cider House Rules, but then it kind of branches out into this Huckleberry Finn. Let's go down the Mississippi River on a trip and see what we see. I mean, but they're initially just fleeing the brutality of the school and the crime that was committed, which I won't tell you what it is. And not only that, but along their journey, they commit more crimes. I mean, their moral dilemmas that they have to face in this journey are not always things that you can just do the right thing and be safe. Sometimes you got to do the wrong thing to be safe. And they're confronted with this over and over. It was just an absolutely delightful book. I liked this book a lot. Did I like it as much as, what was that book? I'm going to go grab it. Okay, so sorry about that, folks. The other standalone novel I read not long ago was Ordinary Grace, which was it's just an absolutely brilliant book. But I'm gonna say this one is almost there, not quite there. I think they're both 10 out of 10s though. That's the thing, is they're both 10 out of 10s. But if I was to pick my favorite, it would probably be Ordinary Grace. But this Tender Land is certainly in the conversation of just great American novels. You know, it just is.